The bridge connecting Crimea to Russia has partially collapsed after being hit by a large explosion. Russian authorities say that 3 people were killed and is blaming the blast on a truck bombing. Social media video shows an explosion on the roadway span of the bridge. Russia says it set a fuel train ablaze on the adjacent railroad span. Russian President Vladimir Putin opened the bridge in 2018 after Russia illegally annexed the Ukrainian peninsula. Now, for more, we are now joined by DW correspondent Matthias Belenga, who is now in Ukraine's city of Mykolaiv. Hello, Matthias. Tell us more about Ukraine's official reaction to the incident.
Yeah, Ukrainian officials haven't said much about it. Of course, there's a lot of speculation on how and by whom this was conducted, this attack, whether it was, which seems a little, to most people at the moment, the most likely version by a truck loaded with explosives, or whether it was some kind of airstrike, rockets most probably. But the Ukrainian officials haven't said much about it. There was a tweet by the presidential advisor, Mikhailo Podolyak, who kind of owned it, saying that every territory must be returned and that this was a legitimate target as it was an illegal construction. But there's not much more than that. There's also been speculation about Ukraine's secret service, which has denied any comment.
Okay. Now, away from the officials, you've been talking to other Ukrainians. What have they been saying?
Well, we've just been somewhere outside of town where old people, they were working in their gardens and staying in these dachas, these summer houses, and they were saying they were celebrating today, and that's pretty much the mood all across the country. The strike has been expected. The Ukrainian Postal Service has even issued a stamp about the destroyed bridge, of course not with pictures from today, but with drawings, and the government has said several times that they consider this a legitimate target. So it was more a question of when and how and whether it would be possible than whether they would attempt it. It's seen as a legitimate target in the whole of the country, and then lots of memes on the internet celebrating this. Memes, for example, showing President Zelensky grilling meat skewers over the burning bridge, or a HIMARS, a rocket launcher, swimming on the sea on a rubber boat next to the bridge. All kinds of memes celebrating this.
Okay. DW correspondent Matthias Belenga reporting from Ukraine's city of Mykolaiv. Thank you. Now let's dig even deeper with Frank Ledvich, a military analyst who joins us from Oxford. Hello, Frank. So Russia has launched an investigation saying that a truck was blown up on the bridge. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Eddie, that's the Russian account. The Ukrainians are not going to say anything about their assault because, of course, if and when the bridge is reconstructed, they may want to have another go. But the inquiry that President Putin, whose birthday it is, of course, today, I suppose that's what surprises are all about, this inquiry that President Putin has ordered will be looking into all this in some detail. My own view is that there's probably a little bit more to it than a truck. I doubt it was a missile. The Ukrainians don't have missiles with that range. Demolitions experts, of course, spend their lives on this kind of operation. This is a dream for military saboteurs. I have a suspicion there may have been something of maybe a submersible involved, or perhaps pre-laid explosives. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out of this. As I say, the Russians, they're saying it was a truck, and that's probably they're going to remain their story.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. Ukraine hasn't taken any direct responsibility, but its officials celebrated the incident online. If it actually was Ukraine, why wouldn't they officially claim responsibility?
Well, for the same reason that they avoid claiming direct responsibility for attacks such as Belgorod and other ammunition dumps and installations inside Russia over the last 7 or 8 months. Let's not forget this is, whatever the Russians say, it is a key part of Russian infrastructure. But look, there have been leaks, as Matthias said. Everybody knows who did it. There's no doubt about it. And whether it's formally announced or not, this was a Ukrainian operation.
You said it's a significant part of Russia's infrastructure. Tell us, how significant is this bridge?
Most of Russia's military supplies heading towards the front that Matthias was on, up at Mykolaiv, Kherson, Novokakova, comes through over that bridge. There's 36,000 tons a day of material, people, and fuel cross that bridge, and the function of the bridge simply cannot be replaced. What the Russians will have to do now is use ferries. They have got some military transport there to replace some of the military carrying capability, but it simply won't come near to the capacity of the bridge. Their big problem now is that a lot of the traffic will come down through the town of Melitopol, which is just northwest actually of Mariupol, and that puts the supplies to Crimea right within the range of Ukrainian artillery, who can exercise, let's say, an influence over that. So it's a vital artery into the Crimea.
I mean, Russia is obviously not happy about this particular incident. What could be their response to this?
Yes, Eddie, that's the key question here. There's a lot of quite understandable jubilation about this, but it won't go unanswered. Now, this is the first significant strike on a Russian territorial key infrastructure, item of key infrastructure. It's outside Ukrainian territory from the Russian perspective. Of course, from the Ukrainian perspective, it isn't. What we saw last week with respect to the pipes in the North Sea were the Russians indicating a capability, that's my analysis, to be able to strike outside their territories. Of course, we know they can. And I have a suspicion that's where the response may come. Not within Ukraine itself, but outside Ukraine. And that might be another step along the escalatory path that we're already on.
We'll have to wait and see how that develops. But thank you very much, Frank Ledvich, military analyst, for your time.
Thanks, Eddie.